Hello, Mark Asley here, and we're continuing our discussion on the four pillars of masculinity. We're going to talk today about the second pillar, courage. Now, this work is adapted from Jack Donovan's book, The Way of Men. I encourage, if you're interested in learning more about that, to read that book. I've adapted some of the stuff by adding some of my experience as a psychotherapist and a coach, but the structure and the format and those pillars come from Jack Donovan, so I want to make sure that we get credit over there. So, the second pillar is courage. Now, courage is really interesting. One of my one of the only popular blogs I ever wrote was about the difference between courage and bravery, and this idea that bravery is kind of a, how do I say this, like a young version of courage. It's the idea of running in without feeling fear, right? Running past fear. Often, a lot of young men feel this. It's kind of naive, it's kind of dumb in some ways, but it does get stuff done, right? Like, we're not able to fully understand the situation, so we're able to dash right in right away. So that would be bravery, which is relevant and a good time. There's a place in it, a place for it in a young man's life. But what we're talking about is courage, which is the more evolved form, which is, you get a little bit older, you've done some brave things, you've gotten burned a couple times, and now you know that there are risks in the world, that fear is real, that things can go wrong and do go wrong, and the fear starts to creep up. So, courage is this idea of feeling fear, but then acting anyway, acting through it. There's a lot of Army individuals, Navy SEALs in particular, that write a lot of books, and what they talk about is that, special forces, they not they don't feel fear, it's that they're able to act tactically, act very intelligently when they're under immense amounts of fear. That's what makes them high performers, is that they can keep their head on about them, stay frosty, and keep acting even though that they're afraid. And Buddhism also has this idea. There's the idea of fearlessness, which again, very misinformed, that fearlessness is not the lack of fear. It is feeling fear and doing it anyway. So how do you do that as a man, right? And why does that make you more of a man? Well, one, it makes you more of a man because you're able to practice strength, which is one of the other pillars, lets you pursue mastery, and lets you act honorably because you are acknowledging the feeling. What we talked about in strength is that emotional strength, same with emotional courage, is not about denying your feelings. That's the old version, that's the toxic masculinity. That's the part that actually creates more cowards, quite frankly, and men that end up acting out instead of acting honorably. So you don't deny the fear. You acknowledge it, you honor it, you ride it, and actually you use it as an energy source to kind of propel you towards the courageous action, right? Being the one that rushes in when the building is burning, right? From a physical level. Being the one that has the tough conversation with a loved one, with a partner, with a family member, with someone at your work. That's also very courageous. Knowing that there's risk, moving towards risk, being able to weigh out the intensity of the situation and then thread the needle are all very masculine quantities, right? And that means being able to both tolerate and ride on top of fear. Very critical, right? Fear doesn't have to shut us down. By overcoming it and by acknowledging it, letting us actually flow through you on a very energetic level, you are then able to act with more clarity and precision. Because what fear does, it doesn't always tell us to run away. Really, what fear is it's saying, hey, pay attention. Pay attention, right? Snap into the present moment. You're more aware of your surroundings. It is gutting you up for either a flight, a big action, or a fight. But the idea is pay attention, be on point, because what you're doing is difficult. And what you're doing is outside of your comfort zone. And I mentioned before that there's also emotional fear. And as a psychotherapist, that is really what I focus on helping my clients overcome is these emotional fears, which can be, naming a truth about their experience, often with a loved one. It can be about reconciling the past, letting go of a grudge, saying, kind of talking about a secret that's been kept by somebody, sticking up for themselves. A lot of guys may be very physically strong and physically courageous, but lack emotional courage. And part of the work is to grow in that place as well by being able to continuously grow. Now, we talked about in strength, and it's very similar in courage, is that the way that any organic system grows is by the proper level of challenge, right? If it's too easy, you get enabled and you don't grow. If it's too hard, you get overwhelmed and you get crushed. So when you're looking at developing courage, the idea is to find that proper level, something that is not terrifying to the point that you're definitely going to shut down and freak out, but something that's not just easy and doesn't generate any fear. finding something that you've been kicking around in your head for a long time. Often working with a therapist or a coach can be helpful in that, to identify, oh, hey, it sounds like there's a conversation here. It sounds like there's emotional risk here. It sounds like you can really push yourself out of your comfort zone in honor of your growth by taking these risks. So I'd encourage you as you're listening to this to think about courage. Think about if there's any of those open loops, whether they be physical, mental, emotional, maybe even spiritual, that you've been putting off for a while, that generate fear, that you can actively go after. Because when you do that, you will grow, you will become stronger, you will be able to trust yourself more, your self-esteem will go up, you'll kind of prove yourself to yourself, which is a theme that comes up again and again in some of the work that I do. And you'll be able to, quite frankly, become more of a man, right? Evolve from that boyhood psychology, which is often governed by fear, into that manhood psychology, which is about pursuing fear and being able to honor it, ride it out, and tolerate it. So thank you much for tuning in. Next week we'll talk about the third pillar, which is mastery.